My name is Louis Elbinger, and I want to talk about the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. To me, this is the most important document of the 20th century. It's the result, it's the fruit of all the pain, horror, and bloodshed that occurred in the 20th century. This document has come out to guide the future generations in right human relations. The document came out in December 10th, 1948, and it was guided mostly by a small group of people headed by Eleanor Roosevelt, who tried to put into principles for all humankind on how people should live together so that we could have peace and prosperity rather than war, violence, and destruction. In 1978, I got the idea that I wanted to set Article 1 of the Universal Declaration to music. There are 30 articles and a preamble, and the document is written in very legalistic language. It's dense prose, and it's very legalistic. But I could hear the poetry in the prose, and I thought I want to share this with people. And one way to get people to listen to it is to do it through music. So I took Article 1, and I sat at a piano and found a melody to go with the lyrics, like what I call the lyrics. They call it the text, but I called it lyrics. And the text is simply this: all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. So I sat at the piano and plunked out different melodies and came up finally with something that I really liked. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. I was feeling very good about it. Then I looked at Article 2, and Article 2 is very long and dense and legalistic, and I thought, no, this is beyond my abilities. So I looked around in the document for shorter, simpler articles that I could set to music, and I found them, Article 3, Article 4, and I kept trying one after another until finally I had enough of them done where I said, okay, I'm going to do the whole thing. This was a project that took me a few decades to do, but I finally did it. And when it was done, I was able to perform it in public for others. I was living in Ashgabat, Turkmenistan in 1995. And that was where I did my first public performance at the Akalteen Hotel to an audience of about 200 people. I had a slideshow so that people could read the text both in English and Russian where I was, because Russian was the language that was used there at that time. And while I sang and played the piano. And the experience was a good one. In the next year, 1996, I was in Lahore, Pakistan, and with my friend Amr Munawar, the two of us did 10, an abbreviated edition of it, 10 articles in both English and Urdu. And then in 1998 was the 50th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I was living in New Delhi, India at that time. And there was a conference sponsored by the Times of India newspaper on the subject of human rights. I was invited to perform the Universal Declaration at the conference. And I did so to a huge audience that was televised throughout India to bring people's awareness to the fact that such a document exists. In an ideal world, people would know about this document. And people would be familiar with it. Children would study it in school, and people would talk about it, and people would understand it. People might argue about the meaning of it, but nevertheless they would focus on it, so that right human relations would become something that people think about, talk about, discuss, care about, and practice. This hasn't really happened. The document's been out for decades, and very few people know it exists. And those who don't know it exists more often ignore it than anything else. So the purpose of my musical enterprise here is to bring this to your attention so that you know your rights, that people know their human rights, and that justice can prevail among people as they relate to each other. I feel that I am triply blessed. First of all, I'm blessed to be able to hear the poetry and the prose of this legalistic document. Secondly, I'm blessed to be able to hear the music and the poetry of this document. And thirdly, I'm blessed to be able to bring it to an audience where people can hear it, respond to it. When I die, I want to know that people all over the world know about this document, understand that it can be set to music, and can sing it in their various languages. That's one of my goals of my life. It's a great honor and a privilege to present this to you. I call it Earth Anthem, the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, set to music.